Hi guys, this is Jamie. So today, as you can see in the title in the video, I'm gonna talk about specifically The Simpsons and in general this whole idea about the world pretty much going bonkers on trans issues. So yes, I'm in the minority which still watch The Simpsons, even though like a lot of people think that their prime is past, and I still enjoy the episodes. Well, I used to. And in the one of the last episodes, which was Treehouse of Horror, they had a sort of passing by trans pun joke thing, which ended up being way too transphobic. So, in case you haven't seen the episode, it's pretty much trees are taking over, and they're like, "Hey, you're a plant," to a plant which wants to join them, and the plant says, I am a plant but I identify as a tree, I'm a transplant. And I can kind of see that it could have been a joke, but considering the fact that Simpsons have a very transphobic history, and obviously there's the episode where Selma, which is Marge's lesbian sister, wants to get married to a woman, and then they expose that it's actually not a woman with the Adam's apple, etc. And that is a way where, well, first of all, it's a really wrong assumption to think that trans people would deceive other people, because frankly, trans people are so scared that we just end up exposing who we are from the get-go very often, and then we expose, or we wait for a bit to see if the person is safe for us to be exposed to. And back in the day it was far more difficult, obviously. Like right now, I can only speak from a mostly gay perspective, but even like when I would try to experiment, unfortunately, with a woman, uh, like the amount of respect when it comes to uh, what women give me compared to men, women have always been far more problematic, transphobic, and etc. While men who are obviously in the gay community would be with far more open arms and more understanding. So I understand that this is like my experience, but I'm just saying. But regardless, and obviously this is we're looking at a lesbian perspective, and when it comes to lesbians, obviously we have radfems, we have turfs, and we have people who, like J.K. Rowling, uh, who may not necessarily be bisexual or lesbian, but we're looking at the lesbian community. There's still a lot of sort of transphobic media, which was the L word was still transphobic back in the days. Obviously, there's the new series, and I didn't watch it, but the old ones were transphobic enough to like pretty much shut it off, and they did address, which is great. But at the same time, I feel like sort of forcing this perspective that woman would pretty much be like not down for a trans partner or someone who isn't a woman born woman, just enforces the stereotype that women are transphobic assholes. And even if in my experience I get more transphobia from women, it doesn't necessarily mean that every woman is like that. Because, I mean, not everyone is like that. I mean, even in my life, for Christ's sake, even if when I stop hooking up with dudes, I still, I still interact with women, please. I do. So, yeah, and there's people who accept me, there's women who accept me, but to enforce such a strong stereotype, and yes, the episode was quite a while ago, but to push yourself to do a pun on already a transphobic show is far from what they should be aiming for. So that was the only reference to trans people in the episode. That was the only reference to trans people in the last few episodes, from what I recall. So obviously them taking a mocking stance, and specifically right now in this political climate where trans kids can't compete in sports in Texas. There's a lot of discussion on what's going on in the UK. There's everything from the fact that you can't get bottom surgery to whether you will be able to get bottom surgery as a trans man to whether you will be able to even get testosterone at all. Because such sick fucks like J.K. Rowling think that they have a position in saying what is a man and what is a woman, and not from a trans perspective. And they have no medical knowledge, really. And even if they did, it's pretty much just pandering to some fear which they have, which really makes no sense. And I don't even know like where to even start debunking it. And specifically because I'm rather far in my transition, and I am very thankful for the place I'm in, etc. But like sometimes I just look what's happening around, and it just doesn't make sense to me, obviously, because I see accepting things, even though I obviously have people who don't accept me and so on. But it's very difficult, and specifically right now with the media, which is, well, it's getting there in terms of acceptance. And I did see some comments today that there's not enough trans men representation in the media. And I do feel like trans people, gay people in general, feel like we are underrepresented, and we are. But compared to when we'd have like maybe 3 movies tops about trans people, obviously right now it feels to me like it's a feast. But we still have to fight for our rights. We have to make sure that people understand that we're here, that we're not a fad. We've been here forever. We will be here forever. So when you see things like The Simpsons, even if it doesn't mean much, it's still very harmful. You're pretty much saying like to trans people that, hey, you don't exist, or hey, you're a joke. And with the fact that Simpsons have been very gay accepting, very lesbian accepting, bisexual accepting, whatever, I really wanted to say that it's more dangerous as well, because there's obviously like movements like LGB, Drop the T. There's Buck Angel and his cronies signing random, it was like a letter saying that trans women aren't real or something. So yeah. So we're in this really weird situation where you have everyone attacking trans men and trans women, and there's the massive horse in the room, which is about non-binary people. And obviously you have the trans community, the binary trans community, saying that binary people aren't real, or I keep seeing these discussions which pop out a lot, which is basically like, and I do agree that I don't like it when people talk about the trans men community as the trans masculine community, because I understand that it's trying to be inclusive of non-binary people, and I'm all for non-binary people in their spaces if they feel welcome and they can relate, obviously. But when it starts becoming like pandering, I'm not into that. And at the same time, I'm really against trans men who say that everyone sees us as a trans masculine community and they see us as soft boys, ooh, and whatever. And this is where it gets tricky for me, and in my opinion, because when you start putting boxes on binary identities, etc., you start shutting down. So for instance, I wear makeup. I'm a binary trans guy. Well, I just identify as a binary dude, but and gay is pretty much the thing I wave around. But trans men shouldn't just be masculine or shouldn't just be feminine. So it's really, and I've talked about this a lot. We come in all colors, we come in all shapes, we come in all sizes. Men come in all shapes and sizes, basically. And the same comes to trans men and gay men and bisexual men, queer men, pansexual men, straight men. So I really don't enjoy these sort of discussions where people try to limit what is a man, what is a woman, what is transmasculine, what is transfeminine, what is binary, what is non-binary. Because in reality, it's about what you identify inside, and obviously there's discussions. Should we have dysphoria? Should we not? And that's where it gets more trickier. Because there's obviously social dysphoria, there's certain criterias, there's certain medical criterias, and etc. So pretty much, even when you go to get diagnosed for T, they pretty much come be all over. Like, come to see to make sure there's nothing loose, to make sure that you are trans indeed. And then they will assign you testosterone and whatever else you want. Because then it goes into surgeries, it goes into, well, it goes into the decision of what surgeries do you even want. And this is actually another thing which I was thinking about. There's a lot of follow negativity, and I know I talked about it before, but I would just want to brush it up a bit. So I know that there's a lot of negativity about bottom surgery, but I really want, I guess, to depart this video with, you really need to understand that we have no choice. And sure, of course, all of us want a cystic, or the majority, or, a fair amount. But saying things like, hey, I don't want a partner with a non-functioning dick, or etc., isn't the way to go. It's just plain transphobia from any community. And criticizing surgeries which are life-affirming as well. And obviously, when shows like The Simpsons and etc. shed light on us being a joke, when we're obviously a medical issue, if you must, well, it's a medical diagnosis where I am, so. I just wanted to say, like, we're really not a joke. Like, who am I harming by being myself? No one. And if you have an issue with what's in my pants, what am I gonna do to my body, maybe you should ask yourself, why does it make you feel uncomfortable? And it's a person's choice at the end of the day, and there's no way to explain that otherwise. I'm not doing harm. So yeah. So I just wish we had more positive sort of representation. And I really do wish things were easier. But, it's getting there. Slowly. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please like and subscribe.